Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Good morning, good afternoon, Dick Morris.
The news about the economy continues just to be very, very, very good. And it's finally percolating through the average voter, despite the media trying to jam it with all the negative information they can find, and some they can't find and they just make up.
Sure.
But the latest Economist YouGov survey from February 6th to 9th shows 26% of Americans, the largest share, said inflation is the most important issue. Another 13% cite jobs. But when they ask people, are things getting better or worse, Americans say by 13 points, 49 to 36, that they believe the economy will rise over the next 6 months. A complete reversal from the Gallup survey in April, and that survey Americans said by 10 points they expect economic growth to decline. The same goes for the stock market. In April 25, voters said by a massive 29-point margin, 58 to 29, they thought the stock market would decline over the next 6 months. Now Americans say by 2 to 1, 50 to 25, they expect stocks to rise over the next 6 months. The inflation numbers for July 26 look a lot better than they have looked in the Biden era, moving from December 26 to mid-27, unbelievable, indicating a real slowdown, if not the end, of inflation. In fact, the government has calculated that given the rise in wages and the decline in inflation, real income, that is after inflation income, is actually up for the first time.
You know, Dick, we always talk about how we get this type of message out, because our audience, we're preaching to the choir. I think right here is where we all, the people that are listening right now, need to talk about this more to get it out. This is what's not going to get out, and this is what we need for the midterms. I think people just really need to just speak what you just said.
Yeah, they need to share their own personal experiences.
Right.
The cost of eggs is down 30%. The gasoline is down from in the $4 range to the high $3.
Right. In other words, my point that I'm making is the only way this is going to get out to, let's say, swing voters, independents, people that aren't listening to conservative, is if people talk about it when they go to a restaurant or when they go out and they talk to their friends that they think are in the middle. This has to be talked about. That's what I'm getting at.
Just as I predicted that Trump would run in 24, carry all the swing states, and win the popular vote, I now feel able to predict that he will win the midterms, taking both the House and the Senate. He'll shatter the century-long tradition that the president's party loses the midterms. In 1998, the Republicans overreached in the Lewinsky scandal, alienated the public by trying to impeach Clinton, and then the Republicans kept Congress. And in 2002, in the aftermath of 9/11, they also kept Congress because of 9/11. But it's going to happen again. Both houses will stay Republican. Why? The economy is doing very well. very little inflation and 4% growth. Peter Navarro even predicts 5% growth. The University of Michigan reports increases in consumer confidence for each of the past 4 months. And that's not really an economic statistic, it's a public opinion statistic. Democrats are committing suicide by trying to stop the funding of ICE, insisting on emasculating it with warrant requirements, and endangering its agents by banning face masks. Trump has done the near impossible, reducing violent crime by deporting the criminals. Trump seems determined to exert military power without entanglements. Decapitation strikes aiming squarely at the Ayatollah. Bombing, economic pressure are the way to go in Iran. Don't invade a country of more than 90 million people. And don't forget no scandals at the federal level and a continued focus on massive welfare fraud in Democratic states like California and Minnesota. So for all these reasons, I think 2026 will be another good year for Trump. Now, is Roxana on?
Is Roxana on the line there, Matt? Is Roxana on the line? Okay, so we'll jump over.
Okay. We'll come back to her in a minute.
Uh-huh.
Now, the Supreme Court invalidated Trump's tariffs, but only because of the statutory justification he used for them. Under other jurisdiction, using other statutes, Trump can continue to impose the tariffs. Trump's rationale was that tariffs were necessary to stimulate the economy. But the good news is that very similar tariffs could be levied by a president under Section 232 for national security, 301 for unfair trade practices, 201 safeguards, and Section 122 balance of payments surcharges, Section 338 retaliatory duties, and so on.
So there's at least 4 or 5 other
That's
sections
right.
to go to.
In the interim, the president could use full IEEPA embargoes.
Which is International Emergency Economic Power Act.
And that's been limited by the Supreme Court. But the interesting thing about the court decision is it did not say embargoes were wrong. It simply said tariffs were wrong under this statute. So you can tell a country you can't sell anything in the United States. There's a complete embargo on you. And that's legal. On the other hand, if we say we're going to tax you 25%, that's illegal.
And the president could do that without Congress?
Yep, absolutely. So the president should use the full IEEPA embargoes while due diligence is performed under other explicit tariff statutes. Block trade, if necessary, with countries who are harming America, while the new tariffs are drawn up and go through the process Congress laid out. Then Congress should revise the IEEPA to explicitly restore tariff authority for the president. The implication at the moment is that a president can just suspend all trade with a sanctioned country under IEEPA, but not levy tariffs to achieve similar goals. It's ridiculous, the Supreme Court decision. The court's basically saying that that tariffs are not an exercise of foreign policy, and they concede that the president has complete control over foreign policy, but say that tariffs are not an example of that, like a declaration of war would be, but a tariff is not. And as a result, it so circumscribes the president's power, renders him increasingly harmless to other nations. But fortunately, there are 4 or 5 backup provisions that can be used for the next year while Congress gets its act together and comes up with other ways to impose the tariffs.
Where'd you get that from? Was it Navarro that told you about this extra stuff?
I don't know where I got it from, but it's very clear.
Right.
The other alternatives can be used here.
Good.
Now, there's a very interesting proposal that's floating around, and the rumor is that Trump may want to use the idea to expand the idea of Trump accounts, that are the accounts babies have, where you put them in the fund the day they're born.
$1,000.
Yeah, and it multiplies as their life goes on.
Right.
He may want to expand that idea by allowing young workers to put some or all of their payroll tax payments into a personal account where the money is invested in an index fund of 60% stocks and 40% bonds. The plan would overnight turn a tax for workers into an investment fund that earns much higher returns.
So this would be what they would pay in tax anyway? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, it has no effect on the taxes. It would take the money that they now pay in taxes,
right,
and pay it into a savings account,
right. That's what
for them,
right.
That goes up substantially.
Amazing.
And this was proposed years ago by
Steve Forbes,
Arthur Laffer, and Steve Moore.
Mm-hmm.
But now they've sent a new proposal to Trump, urging him to go back to this proposal. Steve Forbes ran for president on this idea 30 years ago, updating the numbers, and discovered that virtually every worker upon retirement would receive a monthly benefit from a personal account 3 times larger than what Social Security will pay out. The Wall Street Journal estimates the average worker will get $300,000 of Social Security benefits in retirement. In other words, instead of taking the money that we pay in Social Security tax and investing it to the extent we do in things that are very low return, like treasury bonds and stuff like that, it would free workers to put that money into the stock market, into other areas that are growing exponentially. And it'll completely change their whole retirement posture. And I think that would be an enormous change. Bush proposed something similar, and it got defeated by the Democrats. And as a result, people are now getting only a third of what they should on Social Security. But without the fear factor, being able to do this would be enormous, and what you could do is transform babies into potential millionaires, and then transform retiring workers into actual millionaires. Incredible proposal and incredible idea.
Wow, it really is amazing.
Now, the other thing that's going on is that Florida is considering abolishing all property taxes except for schools. The Florida House just voted to abolish all non-school property taxes for homeowners. The vote was 80-30. It puts a constitutional amendment on the 26th ballot this year, if the Senate approves, and applies to homesteaded homes, real relief for Florida families. It's huge tax freedom for everyday Floridians. No more getting hammered on property taxes. DeSantis-style leadership is making it happen. Blue states could never do it. Homeowners keep more money in their pockets. The Trump momentum is spreading in red states.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. Is Roxana around?
No, she's looking for her phone.
Okay, good. All right, we'll do her after the break.
Peter Navarro.
Yeah.
Want to talk about Peter? This is great. Peter Navarro says data centers must pay their own way. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. Dr. Navarro, this is him speaking. What needs to happen, he's talking to Maria Borderomo. Maria, is that all of these data centers data center builders, Meta on down, need to pay for all of the costs. Emphasize on that. They need to pay, not only pay for the electricity that they're using on the grid, but they have to pay for the resiliency that they're affecting as well. They need to pay for the water, so there's action here going forward where we force them to eternalize the cost. You can't be a Luddite like Bernie. I mean, Bernie's one of the great Luddites, but whatever you have to do is to make sure the American people are not hurt. So, and Maria was saying something like rob, replicate, and replace, but that's something else. Yeah, then he go on.
The AI centers are imposing a tremendous external costs that are now being absorbed by the American taxpayer. And that's wrong, or the American ratepayer.
Or the community, the local community people.
You see your electric bill rise dramatically. And it's not that you turned the air conditioning on too high or that you used it for too long. It's that there's a data center a couple of miles away from you that's eating up all the electricity that should be going to your house. And what Navarro is saying, that as part of trying to control the cost of living, you tell a data center, bring your own electricity, bring your own water, bring your own power. And that's the right way to do it.
Navarro's also saying we're in the best economy since '98. Navarro, absolutely. This is him speaking again. It's the perfect Trump economy in 2026. It's what we call gridlock economy. The last time we saw what we're seeing now.
Goldilocks economy.
Oh, right. Goldilocks. Right. Sorry about that. And we're seeing now we haven't seen this since '98. And, right, we're seeing stock markets over $50,000. That's Wall Street. But we're also seeing the rising real wages. That's Main Street. We're seeing a return to manufacturing. We're seeing strong growth. And it's all happening in a disinflation environment where I like that, a disinflation environment where we're at or near Fed target. We're near Fed target, and it's really extraordinary what's happening, Maria. This is him speaking again to Maria. You and I, your day job during the work week, and at these micro indicators, wait a second. You and I, your day job during the week is looking at these macro indicators. We've had the job report come in with blowout numbers. We had the ISM manufacturing index, which is dear to my heart because I'm the Council for Trade and Manufacturing. That's showing a very robust final jump in manufacturing CPI, as you just reported. Look, and this is happening because of tariffs, not in spite of them, as the critics would say, because if there's any tariff inflation, it would show up in the core. It's simply not doing that. So everything is hitting on all major cylinders, and the best is yet to come.
What an amazing statement about the economy.
Right.
From Navarro, who knows exactly what's going on. I
like that he uses inflation-free environment.
Yeah.
I love that.
He is, and it is amazing. This is the first time in decades that we have had real wages increasing, which means wages are going up faster than inflation, and therefore you're actually getting more money in your pocket. Well, that's happening. We also have good news on immigration.
ICE Director Todd Lyons told the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee last week that there are approximately 1.6 million illegal aliens in the United States, with final orders of removal issued by the DOJ immigration judges. The director reported that half of these, approximately 800,000, have criminal convictions. Lyons added that the 1.6 million illegal aliens with final orders of removal include nearly 17,000 in the state of Minnesota.
So the issue is, of course, what do we do with them while we're holding them for them to wait online to get on the airplane to get out of here?
Yeah, right.
So Trump and ICE are proposing 8 megacenters, each with a capacity for 10,000 detainees. Cost $40 billion, and they'll be completed by the end of November. So we will have places to put them other than our Main Street. But we may not need it, because the statistics are showing that self-deportation now is happening in 1/3 of the cases.
And we'll talk about that right when we come back. We've got to take a break. But let me just give the number, 800-848-9222. Call-in number, 800-848-9222 when we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
So, Dick, I think we're going to do On the Rock segment.
Yeah, I just want to insert. When you visit Monticello, Jefferson's home, You go into his bedroom, and there's a big statue, a big bust of Sir Isaac Newton there. And I always wondered about that. Why is that? It's next to the bust of a whole bunch of other people who I really admire, John Locke and others. And I didn't understand why it was there. And now I read that in Newton's papers, his papers that have just been discovered and translated, it's clear that he was the founder, really, of the idea of intelligent design as the method of the evolution of the universe. Everybody believed the biblical concept of 7 days, but then Dickens came, then the immigration process, the evolution process came along, and people came to believe that, no, it wasn't that, is what Darwin said. Yeah. That human beings evolved from dirt, monkeys and dirt and all of that stuff.
Sometimes I believe some humans came from dirt.
And the religious right was saying that can't be true, that it was all created by divine inspiration. And the left mocked it. The famous Scopes trial of 1923, the criminal trial of a teacher who said that evolution is wrong, or who said evolution is right, and was a Darwinian. And in his criminal trial, he was convicted, became famous because Clarence Darrow, the attorney, was the prosecutor. Now it turns out that Isaac Newton really believed all along, not in evolution, but in intelligent design. Intelligent design says that somebody with a brain, like God, invented the human race, invented this whole process of evolutionary change, and that the way people evolved from apes was because of intelligent design. So Roxana's been doing some research about this, and it's fascinating what she's found.
Hi, Rock. How are you?
Hi. Thank you, Dick. Hi, Doug. Yes, actually, the more I researched and dug in, I followed a path not only to what he discovered with, gravity, etc., but his connection with Einstein, who actually made an apology to him later on in his life, between science and religion. So I'll just start there. The more I study science, the more I believe in God, was a quote from Einstein. Raising the question, was the universe created by evolution or intelligent design? Sir Isaac Newton said, the supreme God is a being eternal, infinite, and absolute. Science and faith, since the beginning of time, we have studied it, questioned, debated over the science of the laws of gravity. For the unanswered question, Newton asked, quote, gravity explains the motions of the planets, but it cannot explain who set the planets in motion. And so here we are. How does this quote of science and religion pertain to the political climate of today's world? In one word, Islam. Islam has created conflicts with historical religious beliefs and modern science to reframe historical facts, to validate their actions of violence and control. Their conquests have been rapid, focusing now on the United States. I'd like to make this segment just about the age-old question, can you believe in religion and science at the same time? For science investigates the natural world, while religion deals with the spiritual. But the two can be complementary. Through history, the greatest minds of science and mathematics have claimed this to be so. I could give a list hundreds long. But what upsets the natural order of nature and civilization is the radicalization of both. Reports indicate that global religious persecution is at an all-time high, with approximately 380 million Christians experiencing high levels of discrimination, persecution, and death. Wow. Not to reform. Evolution explains life's diversity through natural selection, while intelligent design argued that the universe's fine-tuning suggests an intelligent designer rather than random, undirected process. I would like to believe that this order of millions of years will continue to complement one another, and that this uprising of a last attempt to create disorder within humanity will dissipate, and hopefully soon. We are a nation built on faith, specifically Judeo-Christian principles, alongside Enlightenment ideals. The principle of Christianity is to foster a stable, free republic. We're in an era often described now as radical uncertainty, propaganda wars of science, facts, and religious influence. Jesus Christ said, "When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be dismayed. This must take place." Matthew 24. Meaning geopolitical conflict is a routine part of a broken world. These events must take place. They are within God's sovereign plan, even if they're chaotic. And that's going to return back to science in religion. Physically, gravity anchors humans to the ground. Spirituality, through physical weight, is often compared to the challenges of life, while faith acts as a lifting force to overcome these obstacles. It's interesting that the meaning of today, this day, February 22nd, is the intensifier of gravity. So during this Holy Week for many, may we stand strong in one's faith, preparing our hearts for the celebration of God's promise. As your days, so shall your strength be. In closing, today also means February 22nd, became the tradition to read George Washington's farewell address that just happened to fall on his birthday today. Happy birthday, Mr. President. He declared in his speech that religion and morality are indispensable supports, urging citizens to cherish an immovable attachment to the national union. And there it is.
Wow.
It's great.
That was fantastic.
So it's all connected. Yeah, it was very interesting. Thank you, Dick, for the idea.
Thank you. Well, Isaac Newton wrote that this most beautiful system of the sun, planets, and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. Could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. And
exactly.
What's happening is God is improving the species, making us better and better, making us more and more intelligent, more and more able to live long lives. And that the reason the way he's doing it, the tool he's using is evolution.
Absolutely.
And natural selection.
Absolutely. You know, you have arguments sometimes when I was younger, because I believed in both all my life, science, evolution, and God. And I used to always say, and they would say, "Oh, you can't believe in one and the other." I said, "Yes, I can. God wanted us to evolve, and that's it." And that's the bottom line. So they
complement one another, right?
Right.
In fact, when I was, years ago, when I was in the process of converting to Christ, I went back and read a 1937 article in the New York Times Magazine section by Albert Einstein. And he said that religion and science were not contradictory, that you couldn't have the one without the other.
Right.
And it was so important.
So listen, Dick, we have Bruce Blakeman, who's running for...
We have the next governor of New York.
Of New York on right now. Hi, Bruce. How are you? This is Doug and Dick Morris.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey, Dick. Hey, Doug. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Good. Well, it's good to be on with you. John McLaughlin, the guy who I worked with to poll for Trump, has said wonderful things about you and said that you will defeat Hochul, that you will be the governor, and you will use the power as governor to counter what Mamdani is doing to New York.
So let's hear it, Bruce.
Yeah, so Kathy Hochul and Zohran Mamdani are joined at the hip. He was endorsed by Kathy Hochul in his election, and then he has now endorsed her. They have a secret deal that's not so secret to raise taxes more in New York State, which is already the most overtaxed state in the United States. We are at the bottom of economic development. People are miserable in New York under Kathy Hochul's leadership. And I'm going to be a governor that produces economic development, job creation, and create wealth for the people of the state of New York so they don't have to move out to Texas, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina to get a good job with good benefits. And, of course, I will keep Zoran Manjami in check. I will not let him destroy the economy of the city of New York. That would have a ripple effect across the whole state. And I will stop him from defunding the police and not enforcing the law. If he doesn't enforce the law in New York City as governor, I will.
And you really have to see his candidacy as an appellate court to the election. We lost the election. Mandami was elected mayor. But we have an alternative. The Constitution of New York vests the power in the governor of New York to oust the mayor. And Franklin Roosevelt, when he was governor in 1932, threw Jimmy Walker out of office. And as a result, the state was saved. And Blakeman is running for governor, and he would have the same power, the power to oust the Mandami.
That would be beautiful, wouldn't it, Bruce?
Well, first of all, I would use that as a last resort. There are other ways to get him to behave and act like a mayor and not like as a zealot for un-American values.
To act like a day mayor as well as a nightmare.
He's the nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. He is a nightmare, and I would keep him in check through the budget process. We have the power of the purse as governor, and I will make sure that he enforces the law to keep our community safe and that he does not destroy the greatest economic system, capitalism, in the financial capital of the world, which is New York City. I will make sure that he does his job according to the Constitution of the state of New York, and I will use every power to make sure that he does that.
It's interesting to see Bruce Blakeman emerge as the top contender for governor on the Republican side. Originally, people were looking at Mike Lawler, the congressman from Westchester, and he's very good, but it became clear, number one, that we need his vote in the House. We can't let him become governor. And secondly, that he's a good legislator, but who knew if he had the executive experience. And then the focus shifted to Elise Stefanik, who's a congresswoman, also a conservative, but she represents a bunch of trees in the Adirondack State Park. Right. Her district has almost no people in it. It's a huge district. It's a big part of the state, but there are no human beings in it. And we need someone with a lot more experience at dealing with people. So I'm very happy that Bruce Blakeman is stepping forth here.
Where are you, Bruce? Long Island or Queens? Where are
Nassau.
you? Nassau.
Right now, I'm on the way to our emergency operations center to manage this blizzard, and I am not going to interfere at all or neglect my responsibilities as county executive. I took an oath to do that, and I'm continuing to do it. And I'm also making trips upstate all around the metropolitan area to make sure that we get our message out of economic prosperity, affordability, cheap energy, cutting tax bills, cutting energy bills in half, and having safe communities, just as I did as Nassau County Executive. We have the safest county in America, according to U.S. News and World Report. I haven't raised taxes a penny in 4 years. In fact, I cut a $150 million tax hike of my predecessor, and we've gotten 7 bond upgrades. So we have managed our affairs in a fiscally prudent way. I will do that for the state. People in New York State are unhappy. They're miserable under Kathy Hochul. I want to make them happy again by putting New Yorkers first, and we will not spend billions of dollars on illegal migrants who've been here for 15 minutes. That's the taxpayers' money, and we're going to spend that money on New Yorkers.
And what about what I'm seeing all about the snow removal and garbage since this snow came with Mandani? And what about this, what's it called, the blue code?
Blue code. Yeah.
And that you take people off the street?
Mayors and governors in New York have traditionally lost because they mishandled blizzards. John Lindsay fell victim to the same problem. And now Mamdani is having his turn. He first continued the policy of removing homeless people from the streets and not putting them in centers. And as a result, 30 people died.
I think 19.
19 people died as a result of the
cold. Believe that?
And now on the heels of that freezing weather, this huge nor'easter is coming. And let's watch how Mandami does this without much money. And I think it's going to be a total failure. And I think it'll open the door very wide for Blakeman, who will manage the snow well in Nassau. And we'll have back-to-back
Right, that'll be a nice contrast, Bruce.
Between somebody who manages it well and somebody who doesn't.
That's why I'm heading to the operations center. I want to see firsthand what's going on. Then I'm going to meet with our Department of Public Works people who do a magnificent job cleaning up the snow. And, you know, Dick, you make a very good point. You know, it's the delivery of services. You can't take your eye off the ball. You got to be hands-on. And that's what I try to do, because the people want quality services. They pay a lot in taxpayer dollars to the government. The government should be able to perform in a way that people can be proud of their government rather than embarrassed by it as they were in New York City. And with the homeless people, Dick, Doug, you know that most homeless people have emotional illness, and they are not capable of making decisions when it goes 5 below zero as to whether or not they should seek shelter or not. In Nassau County, our police would take those people into custody, put them in a warm shelter where they were safe, where they had food, where they had water, where they had the ability to be safe and warm throughout this crisis. That's what I would do, because a lot of these people can't take care of themselves. And I think it's just a shame that Zoran Mandam on ceremony and said, we're not going to force anybody to do anything.
Idiot.
I think sometimes you got to help people who can't help themselves.
That's right. You know what, Bruce? I think you should have that contrast in your ads of the snow and the garbage removal and what you were doing in your county. That would be perfect to show people the contrast of you and him.
You never really understand how bad an administration is until you confront them with something like a blizzard.
Yeah.
And then you see it, and it becomes obvious to everyone. And this blizzard, I think, if it's what it's stacked up to be, almost 2 feet of snow, really may be the storm that made it impossible for Kathy Hochul and Zoran Mandami to continue.
This is great, Bruce.
I had to bail Kathy Hochul out 2.5 years ago, when 2 years ago rather, when they had the terrible blizzards in Buffalo. That was her hometown, and she didn't send the right equipment. She didn't send enough equipment from Nassau County. I sent my plows up there to help dig out Buffalo, and we got it cleaned up in a few days. So that's the kind of people that we have working here in Nassau County. I love
that's great.
Work for us, and we treat our workers well because they do a great job.
Listen, Bruce, you call us after the show, and we're going to help you with your campaign, whatever you need, okay?
God bless.
Thank you Dick Morris, he's the guy.
Thank you.
Oh, believe me, I know. He is somebody that I have admired for many, many years. He's a sage. He is someone who has his finger on the pulse of politics throughout the United States and even internationally. So it's just an honor to be with you guys today.
Well, thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm so glad we got you on.
God bless.
Okay.
Thanks.
God bless you.
Thank you, Bruce. All right. So I think we have to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the illegal aliens. 1.6 million illegal aliens have final orders of removal.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. You know, we look at what went on in Minnesota and the violence that accompanied ICE's removal and enforcement of the law. And Donald Trump anticipated that this might happen. And he set in motion a program where people will voluntarily leave the country.
This is so unbelievable.
That program is working so well and so reducing deaths and injuries as a result of ICE efforts.
In a third of the cases, according to the figures reviewed by CBS, in 2025, almost 3 in 10 deportation cases ended with illegal aliens choosing to self-deport from the U.S., the highest share of self-deportations in such a case on record. That figure only appears to be climbing as the Trump administration's immigration crackdown widens and detention populations swell. The percentage of voluntary departures among those detained grew nearly every month of 25, reaching 38% in December. The analysis does not include those who were not given a hearing before an immigration judge, such as immigrants in expedited removal proceedings. Last year, Trump's Department of Homeland Security announced stipends for illegal aliens who self-deport via the administration's CBP home app, along with a free flight back to their native country. In January, DHS officials said they were upping the stipend to $2,600 in addition to a free flight home for illegal aliens. Officials have suggested that about 2 million illegal aliens have self-deported. That's amazing. 2 million have self-deported within the last year. To celebrate 1 year of this administration, the U.S. taxpayer is generously increasing the incentive to leave voluntarily for those in this country illegal, offering a $2,600 exit bonus. I wasn't with that at first, Dick, but you did convince me. It's a lot less money to give them that than to keep them here. I really didn't like it at first.
And it's the new Donald Trump versus the old one. The old Donald Trump would say, hey, you broke the law.
Too bad.
I'm not going to pay you to leave the country. Get the hell out or we'll put you in jail.
Right.
And the new one says, okay, all that's true, but we'll give you a chance before that to move yourself and to leave the country voluntarily. And if you do that, you get $2,600. You get a free air ticket home. And you can re-enter the country legally without any prejudice, because you voluntarily left. And that's what's working. That's doing an incredible job. And it's cutting the crime rate. It's no coincidence that with these deportations working, we have the lowest murder rate since 1900, before the days of John Dillinger and Al Capone.
No, but that really is amazing.
And the reason we have a low crime rate is not just that we have great cops, it's that we don't have any more criminals.
And they're not coming in.
We've thrown them out of the country as opposed to letting them walk the street.
And there's no more incentive for them to come in. They're not getting their free stuff, you know. And they know this guy, the new sheriff in town, is going to get them. He's not going to let them run around like morons. This is great.
Now, one of the other things you've been saying that I finally began to listen to is that EVs are dead.
I was saying that for 2 years now. It just, building cars all my life, it's just what it is. We warned repeatedly during the Biden years that the auto industry was sowing the seeds of its own destruction by getting hooked on tens of billions of taxpayer subsidies for electric vehicles. The manufacturers were getting hooked on the money. They were getting addicted to it, right? These included $7,500 tax credit to entice people to buy an EV, manufacturing subsidies, and free charging stations. The big three auto firms got sucked into just what we counseled against, building cars for politicians, not the car buyers. So we weren't surprised by this. The Wall Street Journal chart below shows that EV sales fell by half once the tax credit expired last year, right? So it expired, now it went to half because now people aren't getting their extra stuff. Sales have fallen to the lowest level in 4 years. Over the past 6 months, Ford, GM, and Stellantis all lost money thanks to overinvestment in EVs. the unsold cars are now piling up at the dealer. I'm going to buy one I have a car corral. That's all I do is I buy cars and motorcycles, right? And that's my retirement. Yep. I'm buying one of these just for that reason, even though I won't be able to, I have to plug it into
Park it right next to the Edsel you have there.
I don't have an Edsel, but I would.
Yeah.
I'd pick up an Edsel one day. So anyway, it's good. It's a good bet that the U.S. EV industry would be much more viable if the government had just stayed out of it. Corporate welfare almost never works. You know what? If they stayed out of it, guys would look at building them and figure out how to make them, but they were forced to make them right away, to mandate. So they just designed them quick and built them, and that's it. Now they'll work in 10 years from now. Guys like Tesla, what's his name, Musk, and whatnot, will really figure out how to make smaller batteries. I think hydrogen's going to be what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I really do believe that. And that's that.
So, we have a break coming up, right?
I think we should take our break right about now, and we'll come back in a minute.
We'll talk about how getting rid of the illegal immigrants is having a huge impact on housing costs.
Another Navarro. Love it. Okay, when we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. One of the elements of the cost of living that is increasing and motivating people to vote for idiots like Mondami and to disapprove of Trump is the high cost of rent. And the Council of Economic Advisors, amplified by the writing of Peter Navarro, shows that rents increase roughly 1% for every 1 million additional illegal immigrants entering the housing markets. So with 20 million illegal entrants during the Biden administration, that implies roughly a 20% national rent effect.
Wow.
And even greater pressure on sanctuary cities and border metros where the influx is concentrated.
20%?
Well, it stands to reason. Where are they going to live? They come in and they don't live some live on the sidewalk, but most of them crowd their way into housing.
Like 15 into a one-bedroom.
Yeah, and that drives up the housing costs.
I've literally have seen that in New Rochelle, New York. Like 12 to 15 illegals in a room. I have my friend's place. I go, oh my God, yeah. Mattresses on the floor
and we concentrate on how deplorable the living conditions are, but those people are increasing real estate costs and rentals because there are so many of them. And the deportations are lowering the number of illegal immigrants, lowering the population in the inner cities, and that is bringing down rents. Deportations are only part of that reset. Under Biden and Fed Chair Jay Powell, high mortgage rates had a lock-in effect. Homeowners stayed put rather than surrender 3% mortgages in return for 7% ones. First-time buyers were priced out, and the result was a swelling renter pool and suppressed single-family turnover. Meanwhile, multifamily construction surged under Biden. Builders followed rental demand, amplified by illegal inflows disproportionately concentrated in multifamily units, and by the inability of renters to transition into ownership because of the high capital gains tax. Single-family construction, by contrast, suffered under elevated borrowing costs and frozen mobility. Now the data indicate that this distortion is beginning to unwind. Housing starts surprised to the upside this week. While total activity remains below peak levels, single-family activity is showing signs of stabilization after quarters of rate-induced weakness. Mortgage rates are part of the signal. They've declined from recent highs, and if the 10% Treasury breaches the psychologically important 4% threshold, the cost of 30-year fixed mortgages will likely drop below 6%. Trump reinforced that trajectory with a $200 billion mortgage-backed security initiative tied to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Lower mortgage rates reduce monthly payments for new buyers, pull marginal households out of rental stock and into ownership. Even modest movement from renters to entry-level homes relieves the pressure on multifamily pricing.
All right, English now.
Well, it says...
I got it, but I get it and I'm like, eh.
It says that because of our zoning laws and because of our interest rates and because of our high taxes, very few people moved into multifamily housing. They stayed in their single-family homes forever because they got the mortgages 30 years ago at 4%. And if they moved out now, they'd have to pay 7 to 8%. So what Trump is doing is by helping to increase mortgage flows and getting people to leave their homes and enter mortgage rates that are lower, we're decreasing the pressure for high rents.
Right.
And it's beginning to work.
And now Hillary, you see what Hillary's doing?
Yeah, this is the fun segment.
This is good. Hillary Clinton admits immigration has been disruptive and destabilizing. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said mass migration, she says migration, has gone too far and must be addressed with secure borders during a panel discussion at Munich. They called it the West-West divide, what remains of common values, while in Germany, where she acknowledged that debate over migration is justified and called for enforcement that is both secure and humane. Of course, she has to say it like that. There is a legitimate reason to have a debate about things like migration, Clinton said. It went too far. It's been disruptive and destabilizing, and it needs to be fixed in a humane way with secure borders that don't torture and kill people. See, she had to go there. She just can't show a little class, you ass.
She's finally admitted that immigration is destabilizing and disruptive.
But she had to use torture. She had to use the torture word, like Trump is putting needles in their eyes or something like that. You know what I mean? She's just got no class, this broad, I'm telling you. All right, where are we going? So, special interest machine.
Well, we have a break, so
all right.
We'll talk about this after.
Okay, we'll take a break. See you later.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris, Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Congratulations to the U.S. ice hockey team in the Olympics that has won the first gold medal for the U.S. since 1980.
No, really?
Yeah.
In hockey?
Since we beat the Russians, that's right.
Really?
And we beat Canada 2-1 in overtime.
I didn't realize that.
I say we, I can't escape.
Like, you can barely walk. Wait a minute, let me just mention, so the Secret Service had to whack some dude this morning, came into Mar-a-Lago with a gun, with a gas can, and they put him down like a mean dog. Good for him.
Let's go to Sandra in New Jersey.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi. It was so wonderful hearing Bruce Blakeman today on your show.
Yeah.
I want to tell you that Joe Caro, he's the chairman of the Nassau Republican Committee.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
What he said about Bruce Blakeman, he said he came, he saw, and he conquered Nassau County. That's what he'll do for New York. He will do the same miraculous, wonderful job for New York City. So I just want to remind everyone, on March 19th, you have a chance to meet Bruce Blakeman in person at the Women's National Republican Club. But I called for a different reason. I called to say that under the Trump administration, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy declared it's definite now, every truck driver that drives in our city or our country, whatever, has to be proficient in English. They have to take a written test in English, and if they don't pass it, they don't drive. This mandate has been done already in Florida.
You have to know what the word stop means.
And U-turn. You're doing a story about this in a couple of topics from now. Sandra, thank you so much for setting this up.
American families deserve to have safer roads, and we will get them now under this mandate thanks to the Trump administration. And you know, my friend said to me, she goes, could you imagine going to Spain, riding a car, and you don't speak their language? It's the same thing here.
Absolutely.
I mean, I drive on the highways, and when a truck comes close to me, I get very afraid. So the thought that maybe this truck driver doesn't even know English, can't read the signs, or won't be able to speak to an officer who stops him, not good. So
Sandra,
thank God we have this. Yeah.
I'm on a motorcycle 80% of the time, all the time, in the city, upstate, all over the place. I see. You know what I see? That's not great.
What?
People that are on this MapQuest or whatever they're on, GPS thing, they start hitting the brakes and make a turn and they're wrong and they're looking for the next thing. It really, there's something with that. It's great. I like it, but there's part of it that's a little dangerous.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And it brings you down the wrong road sometimes. So
and you know,
has to be done about
and
that.
I'll say one more thing, if I may. You know, under the Biden administration, every illegal immigrant or every non-citizen was able to get a commercial driver's license, and they didn't have to get tested. They didn't have to get screened. They just got it. And American applicants had to go through tests of background, not under the Biden administration. They could just get it just like that, not having to be checked in any way.
Well, they had the motor voter thing also. That was a big part of that.
Yeah, they didn't care if they drove. They just wanted them to vote.
Yeah, you know, on your back of your license application.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Sandra.
You're welcome.
So much.
I hope
You're
to make
welcome.
the Bruce Blakeman event.
Yeah, we'll make it, Sandra, unless we have to be in Alaska or something, but we should make it.
Let's go to Patrick in
Indiana.
Yes, I want to say the same thing that I've said before, that the Supreme Court is if this tariff thing stands, the Supreme Court has just usurped authority over the Constitution, because the Constitution says in Article 3 that the Supreme Court has authority over domestic affairs. But in Article 4, Section 4, it says that the President has authority over foreign affairs. And the Supreme Court has just said that they have authority over everything.
Yeah.
And if you don't...
I wouldn't worry that much about it, Patrick, because you're right.
Tell Donald Trump that he must use the Constitution to defeat the Supreme Court, because the Democrats, as they have always said, they wanted to overturn the Constitution, and this is their chance.
Patrick, you're right. And I think Trump did exactly that the day of the Supreme Court decision, using his authority to impose a 15% tariff on every country. And he's going to backfill with laws that give him the power to raise tariffs with his evidence of discrimination against American products. So I don't think the decision will have much impact. But you know what it will impact, Patrick? What makes it less likely that we're going to get the $2,000 rebate from the tariffs. I think they were waiting for the court decision before proceeding with the rebates. And you could argue that now it's more likely that there'll be the rebates because the shoe has already dropped. But I think it's more likely that there will not be, and that could be a real problem. But thank you, Patrick. Appreciate your call. Have you ever wondered why California got so liberal, how it got that way? Tell them, Doug.
Public sector unions collect nearly $1 billion a year to control Sacramento, normal citizens. a trickle against a torrent. California's public sector unions are the Colorado River of political spending. Normal people and our donation. I got to tell you, I'm reading this and I still don't get it, folks. So you're going to have to simplify it for me. An unstoppable torrent flows from 1.1 million union members collecting nearly $1 billion a year in dues. If you wonder how California politics got so bad, this is how. Yeah. Explain the whole thing to me, Dick.
It's just very simply that in California, public sector unions, mainly the teachers union, spends so much money and has so many members that money dominates the system, and only left-wingers can get elected. And the over 1.1 million union members donate over $1 billion a year in dues, and that all goes to Democratic unions, and that's how California got so crazy.
So there you go. That was the easier way to say it than what I just read. Okay, now the Dems demand no ICE face masks. Why? How about Antifa, BLM, and the useful idiot rioters have no mask, and you put ID tags on them? If you want us to take masks off the ICE guys, rioters have to have ID tags with your name, address, and phone number on it. How about that?
Yeah, that's right.
So Democratic lawmakers are pushing to ban immigration and customs enforcement agents from wearing face masks or facial coverings during enforcement operation, aiming to increase accountability. That's not what they're aiming for. Increase accountability and transparency. Bull. They want to get these guys. They want to go to their house and shoot their dog. Proposed legislation such as no anonymity in Immigration Enforcement Act would require agents to display identification, arguing that masks, anonymous or plainclothes agents create fear. They're not creating fear with us, right? Rioters don't create fear.
And with agents being assassinated and their homes being targeted,
right,
and the kids being harassed.
Talk about fear. Too bad.
They're not supposed to hide their identity.
Right. So accountability and identification. Democrats argue that masks prevent the identification of agents who may be engaging in aggressive tactics, comparing the practice to secret police force. Yeah, okay, but you're not creating any kind of fear, the rioters, or engaging in aggressive tactics. Legislative action to push to ban masks is part of broader negotiations by Democrats to, in some cases, condition funding for the Department of Homeland Security on these policy changes.
So the Democrats have shut down all funding to the Department of Homeland Security and to the enforcement of the border by ICE. And they say they're not going to reopen it unless we ban ICE agents from protecting themselves and their families by wearing masks.
How about if Minnesota and all of these blue states that have illegals and won't help the ICE, how about you let the ICE agents go into your prisons and your jails or your detention centers where the people are and let them go in nicely and say, listen, we're going to put you on a plane, you got to go home or you got to go to court. Yeah. How about you do that?
Well, here's $2,600.
Get out.
Plane ticket, get out.
Get out.
Yeah.
But
no. The reason they don't do it is simple.
They
can't get the votes.
That's right.
And they're holding these illegal immigrants hostage so that they could get them in the country, register them to vote, and count the votes and remain in power.
Right. And if some of them get killed or hurt, and that's all why in the process we get our vote, we get elected.
Now, Trump has created a situation now for the first time in really recent history. The net immigration total has declined in February of 25. The contraction follows a rapid increase from 21 to 24. This sudden reversal has important implications for the demographic outlook, labor force participation, employment growth in local markets. In July, 89,000 more people left than came to the United States illegally. Incredible. And in working age population, adjusting for historical employment rates, that amounts to a net loss of about 50,000 unauthorized illegal immigrants in 1 month alone.
That's amazing.
And that has contributed a lot to the drop in inflation. The Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index for January showed annualized inflation dropping to 2.4% for the first 12 months, down from 2.7 12 months earlier. The press wrote it up as if it were a big surprise. A New York Times subheadline described inflation easing by more than expected. Prices rise slower than expected, said Bloomberg. Yet a lot of people who have been paying careful attention, including Treasury Secretary Bessent and President Trump, have been saying for months that inflation is cooling. The Fed inflation numbers were so good that even former Obama and Biden administration officials acknowledged it. The chairman of the former Biden's Council of Economic Advisors, Jared Bernstein, described it as a welcomely benign inflation report. Bernstein said, generally speaking, it's a good inflation report. If broad inflation pressures were building, we'd see that in the data. As of now, we do not. And the chairman of President Obama's Council of Economic Advisors, Jason Furman, who now teaches at Harvard, wrote, bottom line, this is reassuring news on inflation.
It must be killing them to say this.
And the White House said, big news, inflation at its lowest in almost 5 years. Gas cheaper at the pump, and there still is more to come. So what accounts for the reaction of the New York Times headline about inflation easing by more than expected? Overall inflation has eased. Unexpectedly, huh? Only if you haven't been following the news.
So once again, Dick, this is what we need to flood the headlines with this. Everyone listening needs to get out there and talk about this if we want the midterms. I think we're going to do, like you said, you're predicting the midterm. I think we're going to do well because the economy, like I said last week, and Sandra liked it, slowly is getting better, little at a time. And people are saying it. But I think we need to say this a lot more in conversation when you get out there.
We are. Now, Mamdani is pulling a really interesting maneuver.
This is amazing.
What he's saying is, he's got a huge budget deficit. $10 billion when he took office, and he added another $5 billion to it. He's got a $15 billion shortfall in the New York City budget.
So he says...
So instead of saying he's going to raise taxes, what he now says is he wants the legislature to impose a billionaire's tax of 5% on everybody's net worth if they have more than $1 million. He knows that doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of passing. He knows the legislature is going to say no. But the idea is that if he proposes a tax increase that doesn't pass, he can then come in with real estate taxes that do pass, that will increase.
Why? Why would that pass and not the other?
Because it's not unusual. You know, it's not a new tax. Every year there's a property tax reassessment.
Got it.
So it's just routine. Mm-hmm. People don't pay attention to it. The other thing is that people don't pay it directly. It's part of their rent.
Or a mortgage.
And the envelope comes under the door every month and they just pay what's there. So what Mamdani has done is fake out everyone by saying, I'm going to impose a billionaire tax. And then he doesn't do it, but he does impose a property tax increase. And everybody says, oh, my God, well, this is happening routinely. But it's not. It's because of Mayor Mamdani. And $10 billion he couldn't be blamed for. He got inherited. But $5 billion is what he added and is adding to the deficit on top of it.
In less than a year.
So he says he's not going to increase property taxes. Baloney. He's going to increase everything else, and that's going to force an increase in property taxes.
Wow.
Amazing. This guy is very, very smart and ultimately very deceitful.
You ain't kidding. That's why Blakeman, we need Blakeman. Vote for him. And he wants to tax the rich guys. I got to tell you, and they talk about the rich guys like they're horrible people. I'm an artist and an illustrator all my life, from advertising, at J. Walter Thompson, all the way up to doing what I've been doing. I've never worked for a poor guy before, ever. There's always some dude that's got, and even now, you know, I'm at Mar-a-Lago and I'm all over the place doing murals in houses. There ain't no poor people giving me work. It's all, I love rich people. I want to be rich with them. It's true, though. And they make them sound like they're horrible people. It's just so stupid. You know, it's useful idiots. You know, you get the news that says stupid stuff. Just like when Nancy Pelosi used to always talk about the rich white man. What does that mean? How come you could say the rich white man? You know what I'm talking about when she used to say stuff like that?
Yep.
You know, so where are we going now, Dick?
Well, 17. The public is paying attention. CNN says that 58% of Democrats, 58% of voters say Democrats are too liberal. In 96, only 42% said they were too liberal. In 16, 48% said Democrats were too liberal. Now 58% agree that Democrats are too liberal.
So we're going down, down.
Republicans are going up, up.
That's what I mean.
That's going to cause the midterm victory that I'm predicting.
Good. All right, we have to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about the manufacturing boom that grows. When we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Peter Navarro says that U.S. manufacturing is booming, and he says the boom is likely to continue. He calls it a blowout. The cost index in the most widely surveyed factory activity worldwide, it jumped 5 points in a single month to decisively push past 50. This is something in Trump. Something is being caused by Trump economics, finally overpowering the wreckage left behind by Biden. The 52.6% reading marks the first decisive return to expansion since August of 22, ending a manufacturing downturn that dominated the latter half of the Biden presidency. Curiously, although the ISM manufacturing index is generally regarded as the leading indicator, it's been late to the Trump manufacturing party this time. Indeed, throughout 2025, numerous other hard data had already been flashing green.
To wit, the S&P manufacturing PMI has repeatedly been showing expansion. Federal Reserve in industrial production has been rising. Manufacturing productivity has surged, a 3.7% annual rate. Durable goods manufacturing alone contribute roughly half a percentage point, about 12% of overall growth in the gross domestic. For some reason, the ISM survey simply took longer to reflect that reality. These green manufacturing shoots from Trumponomics capture exactly the pattern one would expect in early stage of genuine manufacturing renaissance. Yet Democrats and the media allies insist on pretending that the tariffs somehow destroy manufacturing job. This deception ignores how manufacturing jobs are actually created. And this is the most important part here. Created and how long the process takes. It's not a case of if you build the factories, the jobs immediately come. That's never how industrial economics works. The arc is longer and unmistakable. In Trumponomics, they're calling it, it begins with Trump's protective reciprocal tariffs and the pro-investment provision of the Big Beautiful Bill, especially 100% expensing for new factories and equipment. Together, these policies change the domestic investment on onshoring calculus. They make it more profitable to build in America than offshore production to foreign merchants. Once Trumponomics shifts that calculus, capital investment accelerates. Now, this is it. that is precisely what we're now seeing. Imports of capital goods and factory equipment surged in 25 as companies rush to retool. Now, this is retool, expand, and reshore production capabilities in the States. The capital inflow is a down payment on domestic production. You can't run new factories without first importing or building the machines that go inside them. From there, the next phase follows, naturally, a construction boom. See, this is big. Factories do not materialize overnight. They take 12 to 18 months, or often up to 36 months to permit, finance, and build. During that period, the job that appears first are construction jobs, openings for electricians, steel workers, concrete crews, equipment installers, and engineers. Those are good. Middle-class jobs, often union jobs that show up well before the first assembly line is switched on. Only after the factories are built do the permanent manufacturing jobs arrive in force. This timing reality is what the fake news deliberately ignores. They look at today's payroll snapshot and declare failure while refusing to acknowledge that Mr. Trump has only just restarted an industrial machine that the Democrats spent decades dismantling. It took roughly 30 years of bad trade deals, NAFTA, China's entry into World Trade Organization, and systematic foreign cheating for American manufacturing base to be hollowed out. Entire supply chains were offshored, communities were gutted, skills were lost. Mr. Trump can reverse that damage, and that's what he does, but not overnight. What he could do, and he is doing, is restore the conditions that make the manufacturing revival inevitable. Protection from predatory imports, important. Full expensing to slash the cost of domestic investing, deregulation to free industry from bureaucratic shackles, and cheap, abundant American energy to power plants once they come online. First is the concept. This is like a painting. First I have a concept, then a sketch, then the underpainting or the mock-up, and then the fine skill to paint with perfection. And there's no such thing as perfection, but you strive for it. And meanwhile, the fake news can keep spinning fairy tales about tariffs. The data and the factories are moving in the opposite direction. They're going, and we're doing it. And this is the problem. But it's not going to be a problem. Like I said, the slow move of what he's doing is being felt already, and he's starting to feel it. And by the midterms is what we need to do.
It's becoming irreversible, and people, I think, are irreversible.
Irreversible. Yeah, beautiful.
And it's showing up in other areas, too. Just like the deportation rate is lowering the murder rate and the crime rate, making this the most nonviolent, non-criminal year since 1900.
Well, that's amazing.
You may have also noticed that the snack food industry is responding to the cut in food stamp benefits and making more healthy snack foods. PepsiCo, the parent company of both Pepsi and Frito-Lay, recently cut prices on signature snack foods, including Doritos, Lay potato chips, and the Tostitos, by 15%. The official word is that it was a nod to affordability and shift in the market toward store brand products that drove price changes. But James Hickman, co-founder of investment consultant firm Shift Sovereign, has a different take. He said PepsiCo company spent $3 million last year lobbying to keep junk foods eligible for food stamps. Then Robert Kennedy got 18 states to ban SNAP purchases of soda, candy, and processed foods. Within a week, PepsiCo cut Doritos, Lay's, and Tostitos prices by 15%.
What, they're hedging their bet a little bit? They kind of...
Well, they know that what Kennedy is making illegal, on the one hand, is dropping in price, and that they'll make up for it with healthy foods. Mm-hmm. The moment the government stopped subsidizing demand, PepsiCo company had to compete on price. No regulation, no price caps, no antitrust probe. The subsidy disappeared, and the market corrected overnight. Diet changes linked to GLP-1 drug use could mean up to $12 million.
$12 billion
in snack loss sales over the next decade. Adoption of GLP-1 drugs, which suppress appetite and are mainly prescribed for diabetes and weight loss, more than doubled in the 12 months to December, with about 20% of U.S. households now including at least one user. So what Kennedy is doing is by cracking down on food stamps, paying for junk foods, he's encouraging people to switch to healthy foods and encouraging manufacturers to cut the prices of healthy foods. And as a result, more and more people are not buying the junk, and they're paying lower prices for healthy foods.
Well, I find it to be pretty important that if they're getting these benefits to buy food, and we're giving them or the government is giving it to them to keep them alive, if we don't want them to starve to death. So I think it is pretty important that he says, well, you can only buy the stuff that's going to keep you alive, that's going to be healthy for you.
And it'll have impact on everybody.
Yes.
Whether they are on food stamps or not. And that's just very, very important. This Kennedy is incredible in the stuff he's doing.
Really?
And thank God he appointed him.
He's great. And you had a lot to do with that, I think.
Yeah, I did.
At least you showed Trump what he's got. So the GOP pushes voting reforms, but is careful on curbing mail-in voting. Excuse me. Congressional Republicans are charging ahead with the sweeping overhaul of the nation's election system, pushing stricter voter ID standards and proof of citizenship requirements. However, they are proceeding more carefully when it comes to President Trump's call to sharply limit mail-in voting. Trump has long warned about the risks of widespread mail balloting and renewed this criticism this week. Why would you want mail-in ballots if you know it's corrupt? Trump asked reporter. While Republicans share the president's concern about election integrity, some are reluctant to eliminate mail-in voting entirely, noting that many of their own voters rely on it. I support the use of mail-in voting, said Mike Lawler in New York. The idea that some states just mail out ballots without any request is absurd. This is Lawler talking. But the use of mail-in balloting, I do not have an objection with. Many GOP lawmakers say the focus should be on tightening security. Byron Donalds of Florida, who's running for governor, pointed to Florida as a model. In Florida, we treat ballots like they're evidence in a trial, Donald said. Other states need to follow that. I think that's what the White House is referencing. You just can't have ballots out there in the ether. The House last week passed the Save America Act, which includes proof of citizenship, requirements for voter registration, and new photo ID rules for casting ballots. The legislation, however, does not directly address mail-in voting, even though Trump posted days earlier on Truth Social, no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. Behind the scenes, the White House urged lawmakers to include language restricting mail-in voting. Politico reported, but concerns about maintaining support in the narrowly divided House-led Republican to lead it out. Many GOP lawmakers say Trump's primary target is universal vote-by-mail system in states such as California and Oregon, not absentee ballots for legitimate reasons. We have to be very cautious about mail-in ballot voting, Corey Mills said of Florida. But I think that if we get the registration process correct, then that'll fix a lot of this. Another bill advancing in the House, the Make Election Great Again Act, would ban universal vote by mail and crack down on ballot harvesting while still allowing voters to request absentee ballots. The ballot harvesting is when they take the ballots and they bring them to the site, correct?
Yeah, and they say I'm from the local nursing home.
Yeah.
And here are 100 ballots of patients in my nursing home that gave them to me to give to you.
Right. If you're sick and you can't get to the polling place, he wants you to have a ballot. If you're a military member, he wants you to have a ballot. Republican Derek Van Orden said about Trump. Who he doesn't want to have a ballot is the illegal alien that's registered, or even a lawful alien who got a driver's license to, like we said before, to register to vote and get a mail-in ballot. And I think we got to bring this back, Dick. We got to bring back my concept thing for the midterm.
Yeah.
If you're illegal, we're going to catch you. You're going to get caught. You're going to be tracked. I think we should bring that back for the midterms.
And it's becoming so clear how prescient that was and how accurate that was.
Right. And I think we could do that in some of the states. We should figure this out again.
Yeah.
Got to call up General Flynn.
Now, a lot of people are getting their news from Apple News. And a recent study found that Apple News, the popular news aggregator, when it comes to which comes pre-installed on every iPhone in America, overwhelmingly promotes content from liberal outlets. In 2017, Apple tapped liberal magazine veteran Lauren Kern to be the app's editor-in-chief. Kern, who previously served as executive editor of New York Magazine and deputy editor of New York Times Magazine, was part of a glowing 2018 feature from New York Times reporting that she leads a group of former journalists who are selecting the news that millions of people will read. We put so much care and thought into our curation, she said. It's seen by a lot of people, and we take that responsibility seriously. But now, because of the tremendous reach of Apple News app, the Times reported that Kern has quietly become one of the most powerful figures in English language media. The Times declared that Apple News had so far avoided controversy because it uses humans such as Kern to collect the news, while its Silicon Valley peers relied on machines and algorithms. But the Media Research Center, the conservative watchdog group, examined the content featured on Apple News throughout January. Of 620 stories shared between January 1st and 31st, 440 originated from outlets rated as left-leaning, and 180 from centrist outlets. None emanated from right-wing outlets. This caught the attention of FTC Chairman Andrew Ferguson, who sent a letter to Apple CEO Tim Cook warning him that Apple News could be in violation of Section 5 of the FTC Act, which prohibited unfair or deceptive acts or practices. The First Amendment protects speech of big tech firms, but the First Amendment never extended its protection to material misrepresentations made to consumers, nor does it immunize speakers from conduct that Congress deemed unfair under the FTC Act, even if that conduct involves speech. So the regulators are catching up with Apple News. They're seeing that while Apple News itself doesn't censor the news, it draws on other news sites, and by 6-1, the news sites are liberal, not conservative.
So not so fair. We got to take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about HUD investigates Muslim housing project in Texas when we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
I had to shake Dick Morris just now. I think it was falling asleep.
No,
come on, Dick, do the intro.
You know,
listen, we talked with Bruce Blakeman about Code Blue, and you got to take people off the street. So Jacqueline from New York, let's talk about that. We did mention it, Jacqueline. Were you listening? Jacqueline, hello.
Yeah, what's going on is with the cold weather we had week before last.
Is she on? Matt?
With the cold weather we had the week before last, Mamdani decided that this was the time that he was not going to grab people off the streets and force them into shelters because there were civil liberties concerns. And because of those civil liberties concerns, 19 people froze to death because they wouldn't go into shelters.
I can't believe that.
And now with the snow coming back and another really tough week, the question is, will Mamdani be more concerned about the civil liberties of not making people move to shelters, or more concerned with saving dozens of extra lives?
I mean, he's probably got a bunch of little babies in the back of his car just rolling around, doesn't put a seatbelt on them or anything like that.
Now, you know how in Paris and other cities, there are areas where the cops can't go. They're called no-go areas.
Oh, yeah.
And Sharia law runs those communities.
So HUD investigates Muslim housing projects in Texas. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, is investigating entities involved in a planned Muslim housing development in Texas because of concern that the initiative may have engaged in discrimination based on religion and nationality, the department said. No Muslim community housing allowed.
Yeah, and that's so important to make sure that the housing projects are not fronts for mass illegal immigration by Muslims. We do not want no-go areas in our country.
How dare they tell me I can't walk my dog in their neighborhood? F you.
And with this in mind, Trump has just issued an executive order banning illegal immigrants from public housing. A rule to prevent illegal aliens from gaining access to taxpayer-funded housing, including Section 8, meant for low-income Americans. You have hundreds and thousands of buildings in New York that are filled up with Section 8 tenants, and Trump is now saying that you can't be a Section 8 tenant unless you're here legally. The proposed rule would revise HUD Section 214, implementing regulations to require verification of U.S. citizenship or eligible immigration status of all applicants and recipients of assistance under a covered program. Scott Turner, the HUD secretary, said the rules meant to close a long-held loophole that allowed illegal immigrants to secure public housing assistance. About 2% of illegal alien-headed households are on public assistance.
How many?
It's at 2%. I think that's too low.
Yeah.
As well as 6% of legal immigrants headed households. Under Trump's leadership, the days of illegal aliens, ineligibles, and fraudsters gaming the system and riding on the coattails of American taxpayers are over, Turner told Politico. We have zero tolerance for pushing aside hard-working U.S. citizens while enabling others to exploit.
Well, you know what it is, Dick.
Loopholes.
You know, they're saying, well, listen, I'm not breaking into that country if I can't hack the system. That's pretty much it, you know? He's basically has the people leaving, self-deporting, giving them a couple of dollars, and he's got the people that want to come in and say, well, why are you going there? You know, we're not going to get anything anymore.
Now, one of the things Mamdani was promising is that he would open free grocery stores.
It wasn't a Mamdani Mart, but it was a good indication of what the socialist grocery stores that Comrade Nightmare promised to bestow upon New York City will be like. Last week, the cryptocurrency outfit Poly Market opened for 5 days only. What it was billed as New York's first free grocery store. And so the triumph on socialism was on full display in the Big Apple, right? Now, well, socialism certainly was, but triumph wasn't exactly the word. Fox News reported Thursday that in a busy stretch of restaurants and boutiques in the West Village, hundreds of New Yorkers queued up outside a pop-up shop offering free groceries. That's right, the first glory of socialism that New York's first free grocery store brought to Gotham was long lines. As one of the last
sclerotic
rulers of the declining Soviet Union, Chernenko told to Pilotboro in 1985. Comrades, it's not unusual for one type of merchandise or another to disappear from shop counters. Goods that are often the easiest to make and the most needed in a daily basis. So basically, his store didn't do what he wanted it. It did it.
And people found that free grocery stores means free waiting online for hours, whereas you used to be able just to walk in.
It's almost like a soup kitchen now.
Now, the DHS revealed that 8% of the population of Nicaragua came to the United States illegally under Biden. Got that? 8%?
Wow.
It's 5%, 6%, 8% of Nicaragua, 7% of Cuba, 6% of Haiti, and 5% of Honduras.
The total number of illegal migrants from the various countries is in the multi-millions, and DHS blasted the Biden administration for allegedly turning America into a dumping ground for criminals from third world countries. The department's finger-pointing at Biden has been a central theme of Secretary Kristi Noem's and DHS's position, and the Trump administration continues deportation efforts amid criticism from Democrats in Washington and across the country. During an interview along the southern border in Eagle Pass, Texas, earlier this month, Noem touted efforts that led to what the White House says is the most secure border in history of this nation. I have to believe that, too. In just a year's time, we've gone from this type of situation under the previous administration to safety. Noem told Fox Digital during an exclusive interview. Thousands of people died at the border because Joe Biden and Democrats decided to cut the fence and allow an invasion to happen that partners with the cartels to bring in unprecedented drugs and trafficking and sex trafficking. That's horrible right there. And sex trafficking, children being abused. This is horrible.
But that story is incredible. 8% of the population of Nicaragua came to the United States illegally.
God.
8%. I mean, that's huge. That's enormous. And 7% of the Cuban population, 6% of Honduras.
Just for the votes. And Haiti, too, and Cuba. Just for votes. They don't care what happens to communities and mom and pop stores and people getting hurt and stabbed and I can't even say it. Women, what happens to them. Horrible. Just so they can get their vote. These people are devil. These people are devil people, I'm telling you. Can't stand them. Okay, U.S. cracks down on non-English truckers, as we said. Did we do the story already? No, but... Okay, let's take a break first, and then we'll come back to it.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Okay, so
not only is Trump cleaning up our communities, he's cleaning up our highways, too.
Yeah. I thought we did this, but no, Joe Concha did this. What a great show he is right before us. It's amazing. U.S. cracks down on non-English truckers. All truckers and bus drivers will have to take their commercial driver's license test in English as the Trump administration expands its aggressive campaign to improve safety in the industry and get unqualified drivers off the road. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced the latest effort Friday to ensure that drivers meet the federal requirement to understand English well enough to read road signs and communicate with law enforcement officers.
Know what STOP means.
I always wonder, I always said, I go to Home Depot and I go into the paint department, let's say, and it says paint and then it says Pintura. How about if you speak Spanish and you see paint and you see the flying paint and you see the paint cans on the floor, this is the paint department. When we constantly go to South America, right? And I see baño and bathroom. How about I got to go to the bathroom so bad? I know baño means bathroom. You know what I mean? Why?
I once went to Disney World with my niece, who at the time was 10 years old, and we were sitting there having dinner at the French restaurant in Disney World in Epcot, and she had to go to the bathroom. And when she came back to the table, her fingers were crossed, and she said, "I was so worried. I went to the bathroom, and I didn't know if I was home or damn."
Yeah, right.
So I figured damn means like game.
I think that's just...
Did I get it right?
I think that's just insulting to people that speak Spanish to have pintura instead of paint. They're going to learn that's the paint section. But anyway, no. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced that people have to understand English well enough to read the signs. Florida already started administering its test in English. Currently, many states allow drivers to take their license tests in other languages, even though they're required to demonstrate English proficiency. California offers tests in 20 other languages. This is ridiculous. Duffy said that a number of states have hired other companies to administer commercial driver's license. These latest enforcement efforts come just after Transportation Department said 557 driving schools should close because they failed to meet basic safety standards. Can you believe that? A truck driver who Duffy says wasn't authorized to be in the U.S. made an illegal U-turn and caused a crash in Florida that killed 3 people. Other fatal crashes since then, including one in Indiana that killed 4 members of an Amish community early this month.
And the Transportation Department is going after states that handed out commercial driver's licenses to immigrants who shouldn't have qualified for them because they didn't speak English. Now, there's a new DHS requirement that was just issued a few days ago, which demands that people who came to the United States as refugees have to go through a security check after a year in the U.S., declaring that they can be arrested and held in detention until they've shown to be clear of red flags. The policy, revealed in a memo to a federal court this week, comes after Trump called for stiff new vetting of refugees. Homeland Security said the law has always envisaged a 1-year check-in by the time refugees were either supposed to have applied for full status as lawful permanent residents or else come in for revetting as part of the independent status. Past administrations largely overlooked the requirement and did not impose consequences. DHS said it now contend that refugees need the extra screening. With the crimes that are being committed by illegal immigrants and by refugees, it's a very good, sensible thing to require that after 1 year we review their status to make sure that they're okay. DHS must treat the 1-year mark as a mandatory revetting point for all refugees who have not adjusted to the legal status, ensuring that they're scheduled to return to custody for inspection. If they don't comply, they can be returned to custody through enforcement action.
All right, let's go to
time.
Want to go to some calls?
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, do we still have Jacqueline on or not? We do. Okay, Jacqueline in New York. Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi. Yes, I did hear you earlier when you talked with Bruce Blakeman about the horrible handling of the snowstorm.
Right.
But I just don't want this to be, let's say, shoved under the rug and forgotten.
Or fizzled out.
19 people died.
The 19 people that died.
19 people died.
Horrible.
We do not know who they are. Why haven't their families come forward to sue the city? And we have never had this in any other snowstorm. 19 people died. It is a big deal. Kathy Hochul did not even mention or say anything about this. Of course, because she's behind Mandami.
Sure.
But this is an outrage. This is as bad as when black kids get shot in Chicago and nobody knows who they are. And
right.
Did Obama do anything about it in the 8 years that he was there?
Or Black Lives Matter.
Or Black Lives Matter, exactly. So I'm just concerned that people... I mean, I'm so delighted that you and Dick are going to be helping Bruce with his campaign.
Yeah.
But this should never be forgotten. It's never happened here. We've had worse snowstorms than this.
You're
Why?
right. You're right.
Why are these
Jacqueline.
people dead and that nothing is done?
You know, Roxana said last week something that stayed with me. It's a quote from John Adams when he was a lawyer representing the British soldiers who killed Americans in the Boston Massacre. He said that when you show courtesy and clemency and mercy to guilty people, you show injustice to innocent people.
Right.
And that's just what's happening with Mandami. He was so anxious to make sure that everybody who went to homeless shelters was fully aware and given full choices.
Because he's got blood on his hands, and a cold too.
And now they're all dead.
Thank you, Jacqueline. You were so right. And Dick Morris, it's an honor to be on the show with you.
Well, this day was fun. We had a great show.
Good show. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Matt, on the board.
And stay dry and warm.
And thank you to Roxana. It was fantastic what she did.
That was great today.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
No. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
No. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Dick Morris Show. You can hear The Dick Morris Show Sundays at noon. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our country has to offer, especially health care. Across every state, every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.